Throughout the Vatican's history and each papacy, the top of the Roman Catholic clergy has been involved in a series of events, documents, as well as being accused of hiding documents and executing actions not aligned with the institution. At the turn of the 1st and 2nd centuries, after Christ, let's start with something not so well known by the public. The Roman Curia. The Vatican's administrative body isn't exactly a mystery. On the other hand, it's not something the Vatican openly publicizes. In fact, most people are not even aware of the organ's existence. Some call it the Roman Curio. Some simply believe, but whatever name you want, it's still the office that handles all the official matters of the Holy See. They are essentially the government of the Vatican. The Pope is the head of state. It's the Congress. There are 9 main departments known as congregations. The oldest of them was founded in 1542 and is called the Congregation for the Doctrine of God, of Faith, and served as the office of the Inquisition almost 500 years later. Their mission remains exactly the same. They are tasked with protecting religious doctrine and upholding the Church's orthodoxy from the Church. Each department deals with something very specific. Some oversee the liturgy, some are responsible for canonizing saints, and others choose the new bishops. But the Roman Curia goes far beyond. There are also courts like the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Penitentiary, responsible for the forgiveness of sins, and ultimately there are numerous offices and 3 secretariats responsible for promoting Christian unity among non-Christians and atheists. Many enduring guidelines reflect the papal orientation for academic studies. They include the Pontifical Commission for Biblical Studies and the Pontifical Commission for the Revision of the Code of Canon Law. Please take a seat. It may seem like a simple organization of the high Catholic hierarchy, but the entire structure, it is a very real government that pulls many invisible strings in the world. And what to say about the supposed homicides of the Holy See? May 1st, 1998, Alois Estermanno, wife Gladys Mesa Romero, were murdered in the apartment where they lived. In Vatican City, Alois had just been appointed commander of the famous Swiss Guard, assigned to his position only a few hours before his death.
Was killed.
I fired it. His wife, originally from Venezuela, was killed by a shot in the chest, and these were not the only bodies found. There was also the alleged perpetrator of the crime, a guard named Cedric Tournay, who died from a headshot the day after the fire from the accident. The Vatican authorities came forward to the press and shared what they said an internal investigation revealed. Cedric was angry with Estrema. Aloisio was his superior and punished him for leaving Vatican City one night without permission because of that attitude. Cedric was harshly criticized and penalized. Furious, he killed Luis and his wife, then pointed a gun at himself. At least that's it. Then what the Vatican says. However, they never called the Italian police, and even less was there any expertise or autopsy. Further investigations proved that Luis Esterman had some quite deep connections in the Vatican, and there were rumors that some did not want him to climb higher in the hierarchy. Whatever the case, this murder mystery was technically solved by Sancase less than 24 hours after it happened. Now, more than 20 years later, only a few people...
I can tell you my
Officer,
story.
what do you think happened in that apartment? What a pleasant to... Blessed are the poor. Peter's money is a tradition that dates back to the 8th century, when all Catholics are directed to donate to the church. Often donations are announced as going to some charitable cause. This is common even in supermarkets nowadays. A piggy bank is deliberately left at the checkout, and if the customer has a good heart, will put a coin or some change in and help the institution. Many people, however, are overtaken by an instinctive voice saying that the money isn't going where they are pointing to. Unfortunately, in December of 2019, a major American newspaper published Vatican uses donations for the poor. About this to cover its optical deficit. Budget, case. Wall Street to join us. I opened an investigation and discovered what happened. Only 10% of donations that are specifically advertised as going to Chinese charities. They reach those in need. The other 90% of their money goes to the church, which is then used to cover the value deficit. Vatican. When the news was released, a big blow to Pope Francis. Basically, churches all over the world are asking people for money to help the poor. And we need to know which ones actually do use it or not. So the amount of money raised for these poor people should not be a simple task. No, many use some of the money to keep the electricity in their temples. How else should a church pay the bills besides donations? What do you think? Speaking of money, how do you think the economy of the world's smallest country is? Yes, folks, the Vatican has a fortune, incalculable, which no one can estimate accurately. Despite being the smallest nation on the planet, its influence on the global financial system is enormous, surpassing that of many wealthy countries. Its economic activities include investments in the private sector, banking operations, real estate properties, and much more. The Vatican's economy is extremely complex and secretive and relies heavily on the Pope himself, who is the sovereign of Vatican City. He is the one responsible for managing all the money. The church's income comes from something called an obol. Saint Peter, which as we saw before, is based on the centuries-old tradition of the faithful contributing money to the church. Or another type of offering, this money, or rather the control from it, goes straight into the hands of the Pope, who has the mission to distribute the collected amount. The money may be applied. Market and the investment portfolio consists of stocks and bonds, Western European currencies, and real estate in various countries. The church also operates in the New York Stock Exchange. Some investment opportunities that the Vatican would not approve of, such as investments in businesses that clash with the church's values, like pharmaceutical companies that, among other things, produce before. In your opinion, should the church do more to alleviate global poverty? Would she have enough resources for that? Say in the comments the Vatican's gold. It's a topic that sparks a lot of curiosity and speculation after all. How has the Catholic Church accumulated so much wealth over the centuries? What is the worth of this treasure and where is it stored? And more importantly, what's its purpose? There is no answer definitive for this species. Questions, since the Vatican does not officially disclose its heritage. However, it's possible to find some clues and evidence in historical sources, artworks, and the Holy Cross's financial documents. One way to estimate the value of the Vatican's gold is to look at the papal symbols, like the tiaras and the keys of heaven. Tiaras are crowns worn by popes until the 21st century that represent its spiritual power. Timeless and universal, many were gifts from heads of state, 3 of them homemade, in gold are displayed in Vatican museums. The largest weighs 9 kilograms of the material, which would make it cost around 900,000 reais. Not to mention the precious stones, the keys to heaven. Keys are another papal symbol that appears on the Vatican's coat of arms. They represent the power to bind and loose heaven to earth. As Jesus said to Peter, I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Everything you bind on earth will be linked to yours. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, according to Matthew 16. One of the keys is silver and the other is gold. It is not known exactly how many keys exist, not how much they weigh, but they certainly They are worth much more than their weight in metal. The artworks owned by the Vatican are also a treasure of immeasurable value. The Holy See houses an impressive collection of paintings, sculptures, and martial arts, cultures, books, and historical documents that have been produced or acquired by the Church throughout its history. Many of these works contain gold in their composition or in decoration. For example, the famous Basilica of St. Peter has a dome decorated with golden mosaics that shine under the sunlight. And it's not just that, the Vatican has much more behind the scenes, more than our so-called wisdom realizes. Later, I will bring more hidden stories of the Church to you. Thank you, a big hug, and leave a comment for us.